In this video, I'm going to show you how to go about creating a deck of cards using loops for the purpose of eventually creating a poker hand in an upcoming video. On this channel, I make short tutorial videos solving coding challenges in Scratch, Snap, and JavaScript. So if you're new, please subscribe if that sounds like it might interest you. And if you learned something from this video or you just enjoy it, make sure to hit the like button below. Something you may not know about me is that I love the game of poker. I think it's an amazing way to learn math, risk, psychology, and there's a lot of parallels to learn from poker that apply to the real world. I'll be using JavaScript to create the deck of cards, but I'll also explain the thinking behind everything that I do so that if you're coming from another programming language or if you've never used JavaScript before, you'll be able to follow along. Also, if you've used Scratch or Snap, I'm going to show the connection between that and what I'm doing anytime that comes up. A regular deck contains 52 cards, and there are 4 suits: hearts, clubs, diamonds, and spades, and 13 ranks of each suit, from the deuce, or the 2, all the way up to the ace. So there's 13 ranks and 4 suits, and if you multiply the 2, you get 52 cards. I'm going to say that one more time. There are 4 suits, and for each suit, there are 13 ranks. So are you thinking what I'm thinking? Because I'm thinking of using a loop to go through the suits and another loop to go through the ranks. But first, I have to write what all of the possible suits and ranks are because the computer has no idea at this point. Let's start by telling the computer all of the possible suits and ranks that exist. We can accomplish this by creating 2 variables. The first one I'll name suits, and the second one I'll name ranks. And I'm going to assign an array of all of the possible suits to the suits variable and an array of all of the possible ranks as the value of the ranks variable. In JavaScript, you create an array by opening and closing square brackets and placing all of the values inside, separated by commas. I'm going to put each of the values in single quotes, so H will represent hearts, C represents clubs, D represents diamonds, and S represents spades, and I'm using single quotes, that way JavaScript treats them as text-based strings. The same will go for the ranks. I'm going to use the single quotes, that way JavaScript doesn't treat them as numbers, but instead as strings. The equal sign is the assignment operator in JavaScript. In Scratch or Snap, that would be the set block in the variables palette. The reason I'm creating 2 arrays is because I want to combine the values in each programmatically, using code. I could spend the time and create a deck array and then write out all 52 cards manually, like ace of spades, king of spades, queen of spades, jack of spades, and so on, but that's no fun. I'd rather just do it with code. Let's use 2 loops, one to go through the suits and the other to go through the ranks, and later figure out a way to combine them. So we're going to specifically use a for loop. This is equivalent to the repeat block in Scratch or Snap. Now the syntax for writing a for loop is as follows. We write the JavaScript keyword for and open and closing parentheses. Then we also have open and closing curly braces where we're going to write the code block that will repeat in this loop. Inside of the parentheses, we're going to write 3 statements, each separated by a semicolon. The first statement creates a sort of temporary variable, usually named I, but I'm going to name it suit counter in this example, that will keep track of which iteration we're currently on. And what I mean by that is that this variable is keeping track of how many times the loop has run. In computer science, we usually start numbers at 0 instead of 1, so that's what I'm going to assign as its starting value. The second statement is the condition which tells us when we should break out of the loop, or when we should stop repeating. So if we want our loop to repeat 4 times, I'll write suit counter less than 4. If this condition never fails, then you may get stuck in an infinite loop, and you and your computer are going to have a bad time. I just have to make sure that suit counter is increasing by 1 after each iteration, after each run of the loop. That way suit counter eventually equals 4, and the second statement fails, so we break out of the loop. The third and final statement tells us what we should do to the variable created in the first statement after each iteration of the code. So I just said we want to increase suit counter by 1, so to increment it, we can reassign the value of suit counter to be 1 greater. So we'll write suit counter equals suit counter plus 1. A shorthand way of writing this is to write suit counter plus equals 1. And yet another, even shorter way is to just write suit counter plus plus. Just to test this out and demonstrate what's happening, I'm going to print out the value of suit counter using console.log. Console.log is like the say block in Scratch or Snap. When we run this loop, we see the numbers 0 through 3 displayed, so 4 values in total because of the 3 statements that we wrote on line 4. Now we can use suitCounter to access each item in the arrays that we've written. The syntax for accessing a specific item in an array by its index or place is to write the variable name of the array and open and closing square brackets with the number of the place or the index that you want to access. So to access the first place, for example with suits, we can write suits, open and closing square braces with a 0 inside. For the second place, we're going to write 1 inside of the square brackets, and so on. Because the variable suitCounter goes from 0 to 3, we can use suits and then in square brackets put suitCounter to access all of the items in the array in the loop. If we console.log suits suitCounter, then we can see all of the items in the array when we run this loop. I want to challenge you now to pause the video and try to create your own loop that goes through all of the ranks and displays them. I'll show you the answer in a few seconds, so just make sure you pause right here. We now have 2 loops that can display or access the values in each of the arrays that we created at the start. So now let's use both of these loops to combine all of the ranks in the suits and create a 52 card deck. This is a perfect opportunity for using a nested loop, which is a loop inside of another loop. Let me show you what I'm thinking. If we copy the code for displaying the ranks and nest it or place it inside of the loop that goes through the suits, then we can access both the suit and the rank inside. And I could display this using console.log ranks rank counter plus suits suit counter. And because each item is a string, JavaScript will just create a bigger string with both of these. Let's run our code and see the 52 cards created by our nested for loops. Now I want to save the deck so I could use it elsewhere. Let's declare a variable called deck that's going to store an empty array at the start. But during each iteration of the loop, we're going to push each card to create a deck containing all 52 cards. This is the scratch or snap equivalent of using the add item to block. JavaScript arrays have some built-in, behind-the-scenes methods or functions that make our lives a little easier. Because a deck is an array, we can use the push function or method built into JavaScript arrays to add values to it. To test and see if everything works, we can console.log the deck outside of the loop, and would you look at that, it works. We've successfully created a 52 card deck. In the next video, I'm going to show you how we can shuffle this deck of cards, so be sure to subscribe to get notified when it does come out. Thank you for watching.